right, Monday, December 2nd, 2024. This year really went by fast, it feels like. I feel like I had a lot packed into it, and it seemed like a long year at the time, but it always seems this way. It goes by fast. The older you get, the more that happens. And I think it's because you do pack more in, but also because like it's a much smaller percentage of your life that is passing. When I was 8 to 10 years old, so say 10 years old, and years took forever. Summer was a huge chunk of time because like that's a tenth of your life right there. It's a huge amount of your experience, and now it's 1/43rd of an experience, so it's tiny. But it's been a good year. Uh, so yeah, the family went to see Wicked last night at the theater. Not the theater, the movie production of it, and I think this is one of those things where you have to really try to go in with no expectations. And I find that very hard to do nowadays because everybody, like, you can find out the entirety of something before you ever experience it nowadays. I look back at definitely the nostalgia colored memory of my early 20s and look back at seeing The Matrix the first time with no real idea what it was going to be, other than, hey, there's this really cool new movie, you should go see it. And just being completely blown away. Same thing with Gladiators, completely blown away. Both of them within that same year time frame. And I very rarely get that experience nowadays. I think they're not making too many original movies that are that level anymore. Um, they're much more standout now when they happen because they don't happen as often. But Wicked, everybody's been talking up, and my wife loves the theater production of it. It was, just transformative for her with her experience with plays and with Broadway. So I was really looking forward to it. And I like musicals. I like chick flicks. So I'm cool with it. But it's kind of underwhelmed. It was all right. It just wasn't what I expected it to be. And overall, like, I think the story's good. I want to go back and read the book now. I remember trying to read it like 15, 20 years ago. I just didn't get hooked on it, so I didn't really pursue it. But the premise is pretty good. I'm not a big fan of retconning and explaining villains. I like my villains to be mysterious and evil. I think that's why I've always liked the Joker from The Dark Knight. It's one of my favorite villains because an incredible portrayal by Heath Ledger, but he just plays it with such glee. He's just enjoying that role so much, and you don't know why the Joker is the Joker, or how he became the Joker, or what his motives are beyond pure chaos. He's almost like the personification of Coyote or Loki or some mischievous, possibly malicious trickster god. And that's the way I like my villains. I don't like it when you go back and you do the Joaquin Phoenix Joker and make him a sad sack and explain why it's just him being pushed too far and now he's taking revenge. I kind of like those kind of stories too, but I really don't want my villains to be that. I don't want to know and empathize with them. I want to just see them as a wonderfully gleeful, malevolent force. So I was kind of not looking forward to Wicked for that reason, because I knew it was going to go back and change the whole thing around. But it was honestly a pretty decent story because it wasn't just trying to show her as a bullied person who then lashes out. It's more, at least this, I guess this is going to be a two-part thing. But this first half, this movie, spoiler alert, turn the thing off. So this first half is more of showing that it's all a con job. And we know the wizard's a con man from the get-go, from the Wizard of Oz movie back in the 20s. But, or 30s, I guess. But it's, they did a good job with lots of little nods towards the original movie and a little bit towards the source material from L. Frank Baum. But they did a good job at making it an underdog character who is then has some growth and has some character development, and other people around her have character development as well. And then it turns out to be all be a con job and a setup, and she's used as a propaganda piece. That's pretty cool. That's not just like the victim lashing out and then being seen as evil. I don't like that storyline of bullies are only victims pushed too far. It's something we kind of accept as a narrative, and there's actually it was there were there's been more recent studies that say, yeah, it's generally not the case in a lot of scenarios. So overall, it was a good movie. I was just kind of underwhelmed, and I think it's just the difference of translating something that people have seen as this ridiculously incredible, wonderful stage play into a movie. And I had the same thing with Into the Woods. It just didn't translate as well to the big screen for me, even though it was an incredible cast. Anyways, all that to go back and say that I think the expectations of things can ruin our experience a lot. I think going into it with no expectations, it probably would have been a really cool movie, more so than what I came out of it feeling it was. And I think there's a lot of things like that. So the novel Lord of the Flies, very formative for a lot of people. It's classic literature now. Everybody has to read it. You would think it would be right up my alley because I do like dark stories and I like horror and I really like human nature and exploring how bad it can go. I really think humans encompass the whole gamut from angel to devil, and it's worth exploring both sides of things to really know who we are. But I think I didn't read it until I was an adult, and there's been so many other stories similar to Lord of the Flies or derivative of Lord of the Flies that it really waters down the original. And I think that's the problem for me, because I never really found it to be that big a deal. And I've seen that as well with things like Shakespeare. And I think a really good performance of Shakespeare can make the difference. And he is an incredible writer. Like there's a reason his plays are lauded as he's the bard. He's the greatest writer of plays ever. But I think a lot of the broad storylines have been repeated so many times in so many different forms. It's very hard to appreciate Shakespeare because you've seen it. You're familiar with the story. All the uniqueness and newness of it is completely absent, and you have to parse through this difficult language to get it. It really makes it a question of, is the juice worth the squeeze? So it just makes me wonder, like, how many areas in life are like that? Excuse me. Where we have an expectation that this thing is going to be the greatest experience, and it's kind of a letdown because we've built it up so much. I know. So from the jiu-jitsu side of things, seminars are awesome. You get a lot of really great great instruction by a high-level performer, and if you're really lucky, they're also a really wonderful instructor. People like the head of our school, Emily Kwok, is a wonderful instructor with high-level instruction. Paul Schreiner, other folks that I've seen, they are incredible. You're really getting your money's worth. But I think that if you've kind of built it up in your head that this is going to be the one thing that solves all my jiu-jitsu, you're going to come out underwhelmed. If you go into it as, hey, this ought to be a fun experience, and hopefully I learned something, you're probably going to come out with a plethora of things, be like, wow, that was way more than I expected. So I don't know. I guess it relates back to stoicism, where you never want to be too high or too low about things. You kind of more like that middle path. And I think tempering your expectations can actually lead to a much better experience than hyping yourself up for stuff. And I think that's something competition helped with me for this year is the first one was a lot of nerves and really poor performance on my part. The second one, there was still a ton of nerves, but never to the degree that I was experiencing the first time. Like I felt a higher level overall, but never to the extreme that I was feeling for the first one. And I was more involved with like watching and feeling what my body was doing. And my performance was better because I didn't allow myself to get so worked up. And things came out a lot better. I still lost. don't get me wrong, but the experience overall was better. So yeah, just going in and watching that movie yesterday had me kind of thinking about that. Um, we went to watch a Taylor Swift experience early in the year too for her Eras tour. The girls had seen it, loved it, were singing and dancing. And when I went to see it, like I like Taylor Swift. She's an incredible artist. I like her music. I love a good live performance, and kind of like the benefit of these taped performances is you get all the good stuff with none of the waiting around or the fumbles. I really enjoy going way back to Metallica S&M, the first performance of it. I love that DVD. It's awesome because it's just so good and it's well filmed and you don't have any of the filler. It's just the best of the two nights. Same thing with the Taylor Swift, but because I guess I was expecting this huge transformative experience again, this just mind-blowing concert, I was just kind of like, eh. And I just don't, I think I was not in the mood for it that day. It just was at a very busy point in my life early in the year. But it was, again, underwhelming. I think that says more about me probably than the material in a lot of these instances. But it's an interesting place to get the insight from. Yeah, so no big life altering thoughts there, just interesting places that this stuff popped up. So I guess I'm going to keep looking at stuff. Just that's why I really enjoy the book club that we're doing with PBJJ right now is looking at a bunch of different philosophies. So we looked at Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, giving you the Stoicism as our first book, and we just um, last weekend, the weekend before Thanksgiving, we looked at the book by Alan Watts, and that's much more the Eastern studies and very different approaches. And I definitely get something from each of them. I found while Alan Watts is a wonderful orator, I love his live stuff where you can hear him talking. I found the book very challenging to read or to listen to, and to get stuff out of it. It challenged my perception of me and life, and I made me realize how far back a lot of my programming is. So it was a very rewarding experience and a really rewarding discussion. But that's why I like all these different books we're reading, and we're going to go off and read some very different stuff, I think, the next time around. But getting all these different views really helps you explain some of the experiences you start to notice in your life. I think that's the really fun thing is I would have just gone through this year and said, nah, not, maybe I don't like musicals. Maybe I just don't like concerts on screen. And I think that's not necessarily the thing I need to get out of this. I think the managing of expectations is what should be coming out of this. Anyways, that's it for me. So thank you for watching this, whether that's you or future me. And I'll talk to you next time. Take care.